Gillette and the Americans for Prosperity for inviting me to speak with you here today. They told me I had a full hour to speak, so I really do appreciate it. There's people speaking into their arms right now, freaking out. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Is that the American dream? I think John Locke would have said it a bit differently. No one ought to harm another in their life, liberty, health, or possessions. Sadly, we've seen our nation's commitment to these principles deteriorate over time. Perhaps the definition of the American dream for you is 2 kids, 2 cars, a house with a white picket fence, maybe a dog. Maybe a collection of Democrats might be free health care for all. I think I prefer John Locke's version the best. No one ought to harm another in their life, health, liberty, or their possessions. And I think we can all agree this is an excellent premise to live our lives. But more importantly, for the government to live their supposed lives. If this is your idea of the American dream, then you're not alone. Ladies and gentlemen, we have somehow gotten away from the simple but important ideal. How telling is it that we're standing here today at an event to defend the American dream? We should be at an event celebrating the American dream. Today, more Americans vote for their American Idol or Who's to Win Dancing with the Stars than vote in our national elections. Meanwhile, the American dollar has declined over 20% since 2002. Does the average American understand the full impact of such a decline? I think not. But anyone who's traveled abroad in the most recent years would have suddenly discovered, the last few years, would have discovered what a terrible situation America is in. Most Americans do not understand what the Federal Reserve does, how it works, or even the fact that it is, in fact, a private bank. You may have heard this past week that the federal government has offered to put billions of dollars, or should I say federal treasury notes, into the hands of individuals, business, and even municipal insurers. Does anyone ask where this money comes from? Well, it's not, in this particular case, it's not coming directly from you or me. It's actually being created out of thin air. But there's a catch, and that catch, ladies and gentlemen, is debt. Further exasperating the problem, delaying the problem for further down the road, and making us feel nice and cozy now, but making it much more worse. It is no different than an individual unable to pay their credit card bills pulls out another credit card to pay the prior. Most Americans do not understand the costs associated with the heavy regulation our government imposes on individuals and business. And let me illustrate my point. Ask anyone that has wanted to put up just a simple fence in their yard, and they will tell you about the difficulties and the costs associated with doing so, spending more time and more money on permit applications and legal wrangling than on the fence itself. Now multiply that by the millions, by the hundreds of millions, and you will understand the monster our government has become. Are we truly a free society? To get married, I need to ask permission from the government. To drive a car, I need to ask permission from the government. To hunt or to fish on my own private land, I need permission from the government. To open a business, I need permission from the government. Do I need to prove to the government that I know how to fish or the first thing about hunting in order to get a license? No, not at all. Do I need to show that I am proficient in my business in order to get an occupational license? Not at all. Now, to get a driver's license, which is something we certainly all would take for granted, initially, I needed to show that I knew some of the laws, certainly not all of them, and that I have some proficiency in driving. But ladies and gentlemen, I have not had to do that since I was 16 years old. Total government spending has increased to well over 48% of the national income. Just complying with these heavy regulations costs the private sector over $450 billion annually. that is $450 billion each and every year, not going into savings or investments for a prosperous nation. Is this the direction our founding fathers had in mind when they said that we had inalienable rights, that the government was designed to uphold and protect? It is important for American citizens to stand up for their rights and see that when they see them being eroded. It has been happening over these last several years, and we need to do something about it. But how has this been happening? I can give you a quick answer, and the answer is very simple. Our legislators have not been honoring their oaths of office and continually vote against the Constitution, but we have stood idly by. Ladies and gentlemen, our legislators have violated our trust. We have entrusted them to protect the Constitution, and they have broken their promise and violated their oaths over and over and over. More important than asking how we allowed this to happen is to realize that we all have an opportunity to stop the process and reverse this shameful decline of our freedoms. We, as Americans, have a duty. It is the same duty that the Founding Fathers accepted when they wrote that whenever the government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to change or abolish it. Libertarian ideals were instrumental in the founding of our country, and they can inspire a return to individual initiative, responsibility, and prosperity that were once part of the American dream. You will not find these ideals in the platform of either of the two major political parties. Instead, you may find lip service or a perversion of libertarian ideals. But the very principles on which America was founded can be found solely with the Libertarian Party. I hope that you will join us. Together, we stand for a strong, proud America, one that reflects the principles and values that our founding fathers would recognize with pride, and one in which we can once again be proud. Thank you for your time today.